just got three things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
To Pistons and Politics, the only place where we do podcasts on a loop, about 3 or 4 seconds apart. It's amazing. So it's
assuredly the most outstanding of podcasts.
Entertainment at its best. We will get that straight at some point. But hello and welcome to the June 5th, 2023 edition, the good news edition of Pistons and Politics. So wanted to welcome all y'all here and also welcome my co-hosts, Brian Armbrust. Hello, Brian.
Greetings, programs.
And Ed Goodman.
What up, bots?
Hey, so just wanted to mention that Ed Goodman had a Substack at epluribusgoodman.substack. Is it com, org, net? Bit?
Let's see. Let's answer that question real quick.
I think it's .com.
I think it's .com. I think so.
Yeah.
So it's epluribusgoodman.com.
Yes.
Where he will regale you with thoughts from his head in writing.
Yeah.
Right. With accompanying pictures and so on.
Just starting out. Just starting out. Brand new.
Check it out though, because there's
Brand
some cool stuff there.
Still
the best place from where thoughts come from, even.
No.
Well, it's true. Yeah, I guess so. Or the ether. What about the ether?
Okay.
What does the ether rank?
How about scraping the internet for them and assembling them in a human-esque form?
We talked about AI already, Ed. We're on to
Wait, we are in the
grander,
good news.
more lovely things.
Exactly. Good news.
It's all sunshine and rainbows this episode because
All
it's
sunshine and
Pride
rainbows.
Month.
It's probably exactly. So that's right. But you know what? I did hear that in Florida they're going to outlaw the refraction of light.
Yeah.
So
About time.
that's next.
About time. Light.
Also, you can check out our YouTube where we have thrown up our former episodes. Our YouTube channel is, strangely enough, Pistons and Politics. And you can see our little purple graphic with a piston and an American flag. So you can check us out there, and very shortly, it gets more fancy by the moment. But one of the really cool things about it, I think, is that in our descriptions, we do put links to a lot of the pieces of video or pieces of literature or different things that come up in our time together. And I've enjoyed looking at that even myself, going back and checking that out. So we've been putting stuff in there for our own edification and for yours, if you want to check out and make sure that we're not talking bullshit. And some of it is bullshit probably, but some of it is sourced, and the sourcing is there on YouTube if you'd like to check it out.
Artisanal sourcing.
Our logo is really just a lower rent version of the hammer and sickle, I think. Or
You're right. Well, there is a little tiny bit of illusion, I think, probably. I think you're right.
Maybe not. It's
although I don't know. All right. So we've got all that there. I think we also put in our predictions for the weeks and so on like that with the racing bit. So and if we haven't, we will. So hey, let's do the Pistons bit. On the good news front, which is pretty much most of all of racing right now. Brian has said this to me in these exact words quite often, and I think that the last few weeks have really borne this out. We are in a golden age of racing right now. Like, I feel like everything we're talking about may possibly minus one thing, but even that, like, dominance is also part of racing and part of competition, and we're seeing that as well in one of the series. But I mean, all the things that we're going to talk about today, I really feel like we are in a golden age of racing. Do you agree, Brian?
I do in a lot of ways. How does that bear out in the long term of economics and environmental issues? We won't talk about that. It's not today anyway. It's as far as racing goes, though. Yeah, we're in a time when not only are we seeing some incredible competition and some really cool development of automotive technology and of just spirited racing and driving, but there's the access to it for the fans is like no other time previously, in terms of literally being able to go, and also the digital presence, where we get to watch and see all these different things that the drivers are doing in real time, and having a social interaction with them and the teams. It's really a special time to be a race fan, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and so maybe I'm going to jump a little bit, maybe right there, because you're kind of making me think about what's going on with Le Mans.
Yes, sir.
And because I was looking at Jenson Button. I sent you that interview. Maybe you'd seen it already, but this interview with Marshall Pruett and Jenson Button, who is a former F1 champion, who's hung out at Cal Speed and done some donuts at Cal Speed and been kicked out of Cal Speed for doing donuts. He's running this Project 56 NASCAR, modified NASCAR Chevrolet Camaro prepared by Hendricks Motorsports over in Le Mans. And I went by his page. NASCAR themselves, they've been putting out different things on social media about it, and maybe it gets 4,000 or 5,000 reactions or so on and so forth. Jenson Button's page, when you think about why they included him, on his page alone, I think his last post about this has like 36,000 active interactions on it. And that's the new, like a new audience, right? That's the new audience. The people interested in Jenson Button are not the people that are necessarily interested in NASCAR. And that's the whole reason they're doing this. And I'm super stoked about it, because I'm tired of most of the people that follow NASCAR now. So
Fair enough.
But it'd be great to bring this new thing over. And it's almost silly, but it's so fun, what they're doing. And so what they're doing is they're bringing this modified NASCAR over. Big, bulky, relatively heavy, huge horsepower, incredibly loud, deep V8 sounding thing over to compete at Le Mans and do the 24 hours of Le Mans. And so far, it's a big hit. And also performance-wise, maybe you want to talk about that a little, Brian. I think they were aiming, right? They were aiming at that category, and they're in like the top 3, I think, time-wise in the category that they were aiming for. Is that right?
Yeah. So interestingly, this is not the first time that NASCAR has ever been at Le Mans with a car. Back in 1976, there were a couple teams that decided to head out to Le Mans and see how their NASCAR cars could do. It was a Ford Torino and a Dodge Charger, and neither car finished. I think there was brake failure for one of them, maybe a transmission or something for I forget what the other one was. I'd have to look it up again. But they went out there, and it was a time when the rules were much more loose, and it was a lot more dangerous. And it was kind of a special thing, but they've not been back since. So this year, they're taking a modern Cup car that's been modified slightly, not excessively actually, but slightly, in order for it to kind of have some of the safety regulations and be able to make speed on the track, because they're concerned from the ACO and the FIA to make sure that the car wouldn't just be a moving roadblock for the other sports cars out there and the prototypes. Was that it needed to be up to pace. And I think there was some worries towards that. And really, it came out of the box as fast as, if not faster than, the sports car class, the GTE cars. You're right. It had a time that was, I think, 2/10 or 200ths maybe off of the top GT
Maybe
class
2
car.
tenths. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
it was very
2 tenths.
close either way.
The lap is like 3.5 minutes. So I mean,
Right,
it's
right.
right there. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's 4 minutes effectively for the GT cars.
All right.
Because the 3.5 for the prototypes, but
Right.
um,
Okay.
but it's right there in line with the other GT cars, and maybe even faster. And what was interesting in that interview, like you mentioned, Jeremy, there were some of the higher speed corners that thought it was going to just kind of be a plow and get in the way of other cars, and it really isn't. It's actually handling some of the higher speed corners decently, and the best thing, of course, like you said, in terms of it being golden eras, the drivers are just having the most fun possible.
Yeah.
Jensen's just got this huge grin plastered across his face. Jimmy Johnson, who is not known for his, even though he did a couple years in Indy and kind of came up to speed, so to speak, with road course racing. Still not the fastest guy out there, but even he was 2 seconds off his, F1 champion teammate. And you have other folks out there in the GT cars like Michael Fassbender, the actor, who's out there racing in a GT car. And I think his best time was like a 4:14, like,
Jeez.
15 seconds off what these
Wow.
guys are doing or more. So respectable, very respectable. And for sure, the fans are having a hell of a time with it. And just everyone there is just having I think some folks were thinking that, well, it's the loud Americans, but the Europeans love the big V8s. They love that monster motor, the sound of God going down the straight.
Yes.
Especially in these times, as so many of the top class cars have these turbos with the kind of quieter engines. This is just pure fun. Very cool.
So it was one of the things. So Ed, they were so worried about the car being slow in certain. They actually thought it was going to be incredibly fast on the straight, right? And then very slow in the corners. That's what they expected. And because of that, when they unloaded before they had run it all, they said, "Hey, we're gonna run it. We're gonna give it a white flag everywhere on the course, like for 24 hours. We're gonna make sure we're gonna throw a white flag that's gonna tell you you're coming up on this project on the NASCAR, right?" So that was
and the white flag in international racing means slow car ahead. It doesn't mean white.
Right.
White flag in NASCAR means 1 to go, 1 lap left. But white flag everywhere else means basically warning. It's not a yellow, but it's a beware of a slow car ahead.
Right. So they were going to do that all the way around, and then after they ran, they were like, "Oh, well, I guess we'll put that away." And in fact, the funny thing is, Jensen was talking about it. They have a wing on the back of this thing that is like he called it a barn door, right? It's like I don't know how tall it is, but it might be 8 inches tall, and like. Yep. So they have this huge wing, and when they're going down the straight, he said they were maybe topping out at like, I don't know, maybe 190, which sounds really, really fast. But some of these hybrid, like supercar, I'm sorry, I don't remember what are they called, Brian? The
hypercar prototypes. They're definitely going a lot. They're going well beyond 200, and the GT cars are the GT cars that we thought were going to be slower than the NASCAR car are so faster at the end of the straight that it's able to gain speed in places that they kind of didn't expect. It has so much torque, and it has so much mechanical grip that it's actually able to power out of the corners better than the other GT cars, which is interesting and unexpected.
So it's cool, and like also just the absolutely gorgeous. And they have a week of testing before they race next week. But the one thing I'll just mention for anybody is that these are just beautiful. They're beautiful race cars that are out there, and they actually parade them through the streets. The crowds come and see them, and a lot of these cars are just works. They're works of art. They're gorgeous, and There's a lot of, some coverage on it, and people are, of course, taking a lot of photographs of them. But I mean, it's the pinnacle. Like, just all these very varied, these varied designs and how beautiful the liveries are. Everything about it is just really impressive to me this year.
There's tons of international pageantry and heritage that goes on in this event because it's been a 24-hour race. It's the original 24-hour race, and it's always been used as kind of a World Cup of sorts for the automotive manufacturers, as well as the drivers and some of the teams as well. There's a lot of teams that are very specifically like, that's the German team and that's the French team. And then there's also the manufacturers as well that have so much history there. Porsche being kind of synonymous with Le Mans, having the most overall wins there. And
Ford and Ferrari, of course, which
the Ford versus Ferrari fight. Yep. And,
very good movie. I mean, I love that. I actually love that movie. I don't know if you saw it, Ed, but Ford versus Ferrari is actually an excellent film with some really good performances in it. And that's about it's not about this race, but this race is a centerpiece of the movie.
Sure.
That movie as well. So, okay, well, that's Le Mans, which, I'm super excited about it. Let's go into some of the racing just from this week. So Spain, Brian, Spain, we had Verstappen do very, very well, win the race. We both picked him to win, and he did. But I think
masterclass,
masterclass. This guy's killing it. And this is the dominance part of the piece of their dominance is a thing and does happen, and that is what's happening right now in Formula One. But then there was some somewhat surprising news. The Mercedes brought a almost completely new car to Monaco, and then actually brought it to Spain as well. And their race pace had a very large jump forward, and they ended up 2 and 3, and that was somewhat of a surprise. And I think a welcome one for I think just to see someone getting a little closer. He still won by, I don't know what it was, 25 seconds or something.
Yeah, but no one has anything for Max this year, and no one will. The Mercedes updates definitely seem to have helped the team take a huge step forward. Really, what Mercedes was struggling with was understanding the car and how to adapt to how the car would interact with each track. And I think the changes that they've made seem to, I think, allow them to work within a wider window that they can kind of delineate, like, this is what we need to do to be faster in this corner, this is what we need to do to be faster in this corner, and that kind of thing. Whereas the other car that they had previously was so unique, I think they were really struggling with understanding what it was doing in different places, and they had no good benchmarks to work from. So I think that we'll see some more improvement from Mercedes over the year. Ferrari also brought updates, and the problem that Ferrari seems to be struggling with is the same problem Ferrari's always struggled with, and that's internal team political machinations and kind of a disjointed Italianness that Ferrari has always had, where you have this hand doing something and this hand doing something, but not being intrinsically attached. And they definitely keep seeming to shoot themselves in the foot. Charles had a nightmare weekend. He qualified 19th, like legitimately on pace, qualified 19th. They didn't understand why. And when they do have pace, there's actually an article today from Charles where he's saying that the team now they're surprised when they have good pace. They don't know what to expect, when to expect it. And that just speaks to the team not communicating well, and their technical development not being in sync with their competition development. And it's the same thing Ferrari has almost historically always done, except for when they had Michael Schumacher. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So one thing I just thought I'd mention a little bit before we leave, talk about another series. It's been really interesting for me, I'm a fan. I am a fan of Hamilton. I'm a fan of Mercedes. You know, I also like McLaren. I like a bunch of those things, and I'm starting to respect Red Bull, you know, more. I was super pissed at them for for 2 years ago, but and not really their fault. But the thing that's been interesting is I've been watching Hamilton, and just the way he is interacting with his teammate, and the way he's interacting with Max, and what he's bringing, like as a human being, to being in an unfamiliar position of not being dominant. It's a great. I think it's a really good example. I think he's been setting a pretty cool example, and he and Max, you know, they went at it extraordinarily hard in 2022. That was, or 2021. That was one of the most cutthroat competitions that we've seen in a long time. I think they put each other at risk, you know, different things like that. But
I mean, that season will be a movie someday. Like if we had Rush, you know, which encapsulated the 1976 season, like that'll be a movie someday too. Because I don't know if there's ever been there's been a higher pinnacle of two guys from two different teams specifically coming at each other and having it come down to the last lap, basically. And it was wild.
Yeah. And the way honestly, the way he acted, even when that happened, I thought was pretty exemplary. And it's not because I'm just talking about it as a human being. Like the lessons that I feel like are being taught in this way are pretty interesting. And I'm kind of more interested in the human story right now, almost than the racing in Formula One, just because I feel like I kind of know what's happening with the racing. But watching how the people are interacting, you know, the story of it has been pretty cool.
Definitely. Yeah, like I mentioned a week or two ago, I think a great thing for Bubba to do would be to reach out to Lewis and pick his brain and kind of come to grips with some of the things that they've, you know, dealt with and struggled with. I
honestly think that is happening. I believe that is happening.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Hamilton, I don't know, in Monaco, I think he showed up in a 23. He had a huge 23.
No kidding. Oh, yeah. Interesting. I didn't know that.
I'm not sure what that was, but it's something. It's not an accident. Yeah, right. Stuff he wears is an accident.
Nope.
Xfinity, which is the junior series in NASCAR, we picked last week, and your pick came second, and my pick came fourth. Look at that. We kind of know. We know a little something about racing. So and it was a cool race in Portland. I thought it was a good race. I listened to it actually and listened to it and watched the lap times. And Jordan Taylor actually, as you pointed out, Brian, turned a fast lap there. He ended up not finishing well, but it was because of a mechanical. But he ran top 5 practically the entire race, and he had 20 minutes of practice in an Xfinity car. This guy's a monster. I think he's coming to NASCAR. I think he's on his way. He keeps doing more and more of this stuff. I don't want him to leave sports car racing, but I'm so happy to see him coming this way just to get more exposure, because he's such a character. He's a cool guy. He's a great race car driver, and I'm excited for him. What about you, bud?
Definitely. I don't know if he'll go full time. I know he's been dipping some more toes and doing some. Was it an ARCA race or was it just a late model kind of?
No, he did a super late model at oh my god,
there's a little oval somewhere.
Well, no, it was an All-Star race. It was at the All-Star at Wilkesboro.
Oh yeah, that's right. So yeah, definitely he's. I mean, again, just encapsulating the fun. Like this is all fun. Like there's no reason. Like he's. I don't know that he would come over and set the world afire, aside from maybe at the road courses with a full-time team, because we've had so many different amazing drivers from different disciplines come to NASCAR and just get completely humbled. You've had Dario Franchitti and Scott Pruitt and Scott Speed, former F1 drivers. I mean, Juan Pablo Montoya.
Never won
all these fantastic, amazing drivers that come to NASCAR to try their hand, and they get humbled on the ovals, and then kind of shine a little bit on the road courses. But today, even the NASCAR guys, they know what they're doing on the road courses too. It's not like back in the '90s where it was just some good old boys throwing down.
And Boris said we get into like a back marker and wipe them up.
Yeah, right. And Boris isn't even all that great, I don't think. Like he was okay.
Yeah.
But like, he raced the cow speed and we kind of see how good he really was.
He's also 7 feet tall though, so he's like a huge sail running around.
That's fair. Fair enough.
Place.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's true. You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, all that to say, like, again, just more beautiful fun being had here, where this guy he's done pretty much everything that he can do in sports car racing. I don't know that he's going to get into one of the hypercar prototypes at Le Mans. I don't think he ever really wants to. He's a Corvette factory driver, so he's got the ties in deep with GM. He can do whatever he wants, and he's choosing to have fun. So that's another cool thing.
Yeah, the Rodney Sandstorm thing is just, I think, I swear to God, like he got himself. I think that is probably what put him on the radar of some of the people that have given.
Definitely, it did. Yeah, his alter ego, having fun with running around with the old Jeff Gordon jacket and the crazy, 90s obtuse shades covering his face and the jorts and the fanny pack and
the fanny pack and the shtick, and he does all this shtick online. It's just super fun. Yeah, so that's cool because people they want personality and so on. Yep. Let's see. I think I want to leave IndyCar for last because IndyCar. I just feel like there's some really good news in IndyCar, and we'll leave that to last. So let's go to NASCAR. We went to St. Louis. I mean, the racing was freaking awesome. It was excellent once they got to race. They had like 300 miles took like 6 hours because of when they have a lightning strike within 8 miles of the track, they shut down because they've actually had people die in parking lots and from these lightning strikes and so on. So they now have a policy where they have to stop everything and empty the stands and get people to shelter if there's a lightning strike within 8 miles. So what happened was a few times in a row, they got everybody back together, got their headsets back on, got their helmets on, they got the cars on, and they have another strike. They get the track never got a drop of water on it. But it's dangerous. They're just not going to have anybody killed again in the parking lot. So it's like we're just not doing that ever again. And so so it took like 6 hours or whatever it took to go 300 miles for that reason. But when they were racing, the racing was just awesome. 4 wide, 3 wide. Kyle Busch ends up winning, and it's amazing that Kyle Busch has had this like resurrection at his new team, and he was one of the more hated guys in the entire series, or at least people were very split on him, and he would be one of the most booed guys, also one of the best guys for sure. I think even people that hate him would say he's an incredible wheelman. But the thing is, he's gone to this new team, and now all of a sudden he's winning and he's popular. And I think it has to do with the fact that he has a wife and he has a little kid, and he's like a family man now, and he's like, he's grown up and matured.
He's grown up.
Yeah. I mean, and
his brothers were both the hotheads for years.
Oh yeah. And there was a great one real quick thing. If online, if you want to see something super cool or something I thought was super cool, they put his kid Brexton and his wife in the pace car at the track, and when they're going to the green flag, and he hits the pace car with his race car, like puts him a jolt into him, and then they go into the corner, and then the pace car will come off into pit lane, and the cars go by at basically the same speed until they take the green. So I've never seen anything like this, but it was a camera from the back seat of the pace car where they were. And you just see this field of race cars just fire. Like, I mean, the pace car is going, what, 70 maybe? I don't know, 65, 70?
I think they normally do 70 or 60 maybe, something like that.
Okay, these race cars, I mean, it's such a cool, you're like, oh my God, like, because you've never seen it from that angle before, and you're watching 43 of these things just fire like out of a cannon past them. It's an awesome thing. It's a cool video if you want to check it out. So he goes on to win this thing with a marijuana sponsor, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is, and they never mention it. They never mention it. They're never like,
No.
oh,
No.
the three chai car. Every other car, they're like the Napa Chevrolet. Like they never mention the weed sponsor, but it is a weed company. It's like all over the car.
It's perfect, really. And just a cool stat that I came across for Kyle is that he's won 3 races this year already, which is as many races as he won the last 2 years combined with Gibbs, and he's now the 6th most winningest driver for Richard Childress with just those 3 wins. Like besides Earnhardt and Harvick. No one else has more than 5 wins for Childress, so he's gonna be the 3rd most winningest Childress car, by the end of the year, probably. Right.
I think he'll probably win a couple more too. So yeah, that's cool, man. That's interesting. That's really interesting. One thing that was kind of wild, they exploded. Their rotors were exploding at this racetrack, though, and that took out both guys at 23XI. Which was too bad because Bubba had a really great run going. He had been 4 out of the last 5 races. He'd been in the top 5. Tyler Reddick has been having an awesome season as well. And they both blew front right rotors. And actually, I think there were 4 cars in the field that did that.
I saw someone got hit in the stands too.
Yeah, someone did get hit. He had like a wound, like right here in the chest.
Oh.
Yep.
Because not only is that thing metal and hard and going fast, it's like a million billion degrees. So it's like it's like a searing thing of.
Yep. Yeah, got schwacked right in the chest.
Yeah, thank God it wasn't his fate. You know what I mean? It wasn't something worse. But basically, I guess they were saying it's because the straights are so long there, and then they have to brake so hard into turn 1 because it was all in the same place where all these.
Interesting.
It's just it actually allows. It was interesting to hear them talk about it. One of the crew chiefs, he just said it actually allows the rotor to cool too much. So because there's
it's the temperature variance of going hot, cold, and that makes them brittle. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure they'll look at that though to try to figure out a way to prevent it next time around, because that's interesting that many all had a similar problem.
Well, maybe they take some cooling off the rotor, which would be interesting to try to make it live more, which is the opposite of what you would usually do. But that's I guess what was happening. It was just too bad. It was too bad, but it was still a great race. And
how did our picks do? I had Truex.
I thought you picked Bubba. I thought you picked Bubba again, but
I was saying I've been saying that I kind of like secretly pick him every time until he wins, because I think he's right. He's right there.
So I think Truex was there. Hold on. Oh my goodness. I had my notes and I think I put it away. He was there. He was definitely up there in the definitely in the top 10. He finished, and then I had picked Byron, who finished 8th. So I think they're pretty close in those regards as well.
Cool.
So that's NASCAR. All right. IndyCar. All right. So IndyCar raced at Detroit. It looked like a shit show. I mean, from inside the car, when you watch these guys go around, I was watching the in-car, and from the in-car, which is, I admit is a little distorted, I think, because it's a little concave or convex or whatever it is.
Well, point of clarity, before the race began, we all thought, oh, this is going to be a shit show.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what I mean. But I mean, I even watched the in-car, and I was like, this is like racing on a bowling alley. Like half of the track is like a bowling alley. I'm like, this is never gonna work. The thing is rough. All these kinds of things. And
then the green flag dropped.
It was and in the first lap, they wrecked.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah.
Here we go. Yeah.
Here we go. But then no. This is an amazing race. They actually had a split pit lane, which is the first time I've ever seen anything like that. Like, what an interesting, imaginative solution.
I've never seen it. I was worried
No.
as well that it was going to create a because it very quickly funnels from 6 lanes wide to 1 on the exit, and I was
Right.
thinking that there was going to be some, and it didn't at all, which was
Yeah.
maybe just luck, but also it made for a very interesting pit lane.
Yeah, and it worked. So that was wild. And here's the thing I want to point out. IndyCar people on social media, I swear to God, 95% people are saying in groups is, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. I'll go like, I was wrong too. Like everybody was wrong. And unlike some other fan bases that I know, they're going, we were wrong, and they actually have the lack of ego to or the I don't know what to be like, yeah, we were wrong. That was an amazing race. That was so much fun, and it was such great competition. I mean, the competition, if you watch the highlights, because it was a great race, basically tip to tail, and and this is this thing. I mean, I haven't really seen this. I've honestly not seen a lot of that, right? And I'm encouraged on the good news version of this show. I'm encouraged to see people going like, oh, holy crap. I thought something was going to happen. I watched it happen differently than what I thought. And I have modified my beliefs on how this is going to work out, based on what I watched. This sounds simple, but you don't see it very often. So I was happy to see.
I have a theory on this, and there was an additional point that I wanted to toss out there for a sec, but
Sure.
my theory is that Indy is at a point. Indy is in the sweet spot in terms of its popularity, and it allows them to have the fan base for Indy. Aside from the Indy 500, which is just this monster event worldwide, the rest of the series is boutique, almost, for lack of a better term. And the fans of the racing are fans of the racing. And they're not these teamsters that are just like, my guy, only my guy. And everything else is shit if it's not my guy. Like the folks that are watching Indy watch it because the racing is fantastic, and because they want to see a race. They want to see, and Indy, I think, knows this and markets itself in a way that's commensurate. Like they are, while there are some kind of rivalries, it's not like in NASCAR where it's just beat over your head with the kind of a WWE, WWF or whatever mindset of like this guy versus this guy, and they hate each other and they're fighting and they're swearing at each other and they're trying to wreck each other. Like there's a little bit, you can see some situations where drivers have had some incidents and one guy has been like, dude, that was really fucked up what you did. And the other guy says, I hear you. I agree or I don't agree. And they move past it. And there's not like this big ratings grab of like, let's see him fight. And so because of that, I think a lot of the fans are actually focused on the racing and they're focused on having a good time instead of it turning into, like with many of the stick and ball sports and like with our political outlook in the world, like red, blue, black, white, my guy, your guy. Like it's the racing, it's the series. I want to see something awesome.
Right. And also, I'll say something, I saw something that I sent to you, Brian, was that, Flavor Flav got invited down or whatever and was hanging out with Will Power. And it turned into this like whole buddy bromance kind of thing that went down. Will Power is Australia. This is the oddest pairing ever.
So
this
is the other thing that Indy is doing so well. Like when I first saw that, I was like, oh boy. Because I thought that it was going to be, and to his credit, I think this was actually in large way because of how Flavor Flav decided to take this on, because a lot of the celebrities that we see that are being like jam-packed, rammed into the sport in F1 and NASCAR, they're just there because it's a thing. It's just whatever. Like, I'm rich, and so I'm going to this thing, and I'm being paid, by the way, to be here to bring more eyes on it.
Right.
Flavor Flav had the time of his life this weekend, and we kept seeing shots of him. He was like in Will Power's pit, like screaming, wearing his T-shirt. Like every time the car went by, he was like yelling, like go, go, go. And I just the way that Indy played that was really smart, and the way that Flavor Flav decided to be a part of it was really genuine. Wow, I mixed honest and genuine there together, but genuine. There you go. It's a new word.
Genuine. It was genuine. Okay,
Genuine.
that's going to definitely be in the description of this particular one.
Genuine.
It was genuine, because you're watching it, you were like, what? And like all the fans that were there in Detroit, like they were like embracing that whole thing and having a good time. And this is the cool, like, isn't this why? I mean, if anything, this whole thing is supposed to be entertaining, if anything. And I was just so refreshing to not have so much of this like anger, hatred, and bullshit that I honestly deal with so heavily. And I'm not inspiring it or even participating, but it's just because I'm into the NASCAR scene, it's like there's a war happening in NASCAR. You've got people saying like, there were 14 different winners or 16 different winners last year, right? And they're like, no. When Richard Petty was winning things by 3 laps and he won 24 of the 26 races, that was racing, and I'm so tired of it. And it's so refreshing to see people having just a good time, enjoying it, great racing in an unusual place. They took a risk, it paid off. It was awesome. So
this is the note that I wanted to add that I didn't get to a minute ago. Again, this is where Indy they're in the sweet spot, and they're doing smart things to really they care about the fans, and they're showing it. So they actually did a segment during the race with one of the pit reporters who's moving around the track and all, went up to the top of a parking garage that overlooked 3 separate corners. Amazing view of the track. And he was up there with the fans that were hanging out at the side of the parking garage, and they specifically stated, like, the city and the track decided, and Mr. Penske decided, that this would be an unticketed area, and there would be multiple unticketed areas around the track for the locals and for the fans and the viewers to be able to see the race and be a part of it. And so like you have this amazing vantage point where you're getting to watch these cars go directly underneath you, and it was traversing through the chicane. If you remember, it was kind of the roughest, most interesting spot of the track. And like for them to actually specifically state that during the broadcast, like, we have people here that are just having fun and they're not even paying for it. What is that? Like, it blew my mind that they went with that, and that they ran that, that they led with that segment, because it's anytime that you have anytime you have a fan base of something, like when it starts, you have like this core of like really honest, genuine fans of whatever the thing is, whether it's a sport or team or a piece of media, like a movie or a show or something like that. And then once it breaks out of it and it becomes mainstream, and you have the whole populace glom onto it, it starts to ruin stuff, because you have this core hardcore set of fans that love it for what it is, whatever the thing is. And then when you have all the rest pile into it, because it's the thing, it's the popular thing, it's the thing that's getting projected on our TV screens or our phone screens or whatever it is, you have all the rest of humanity that gets to come in and ruin it.
It's the Unforgiven syndrome.
Right.
What's that, Ed? Sorry.
It's the Unforgiven syndrome.
I'm not familiar with that actually.
Metallica's Black Album had a song called Unforgiven that was basically a ballad.
Mhm.
And so once sorority girls started blasting Metallica
Ah!
windows, it was like, well,
Yeah, right. I get it. I get you now. Yep. This is
Well, I
not who
think-
this was for.
Yeah.
yep.
Well, right, and I think that, and then it's that overreach thing that happens, right? Where you start, you're like, "Ooh, we're growing. Oh, we've got a lot of pipeline. Well, what if we got 10% more than that?"
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah.
start like betraying your brand. You were growing
Right.
with your brand, and then you betray it, and right, and then you start screwing up your product. So that's, I think we've talked about that a few times.
Sure. Sure.
And so yeah, that's a really good point. To the details of the race, Alex Palou, last year's champion, who we met 2 years ago at Long Beach, won the race with a incredible drive. Will Power came in second, and man, it was just back and forth, hard fought. I think within the last 15 laps of the race, Power passed for the lead and then lost it again back to Palou. They thought there was going to be no passing on this track. They couldn't have been more wrong. There was so much passing. That like double apex, is that turn one that was the double apex? Like whether we had to go wide. That is a great spot. I mean, that was really that made for some great racing and was really exciting.
And it set up the next corner after that too, because if you sacrifice that corner, it would set you up really well for the next one as well. So it was like a three, even though looking at a diagram of it, you would think, oh, they're completely separate. Like there's almost like a 3-corner complex actually, which was very cool. I don't know if it was entirely intended, but it worked really, really well. Yeah.
And then Will Power gets out of the car and is like, this is where it's at. This is the racing. This is the racing. Like this is the he came out with fighting words for F1 and classic Will Power way, and just all makes it really fun.
Yep.
So let's see, and both of our picks, just to say, in that race crashed out. So
yeah.
Ward had a wheel go wrong and then made he
overcooked it. He was just driving crazy.
Yeah. I feel like, he's still young, right? He's still young. I mean, everyone's young in a race car compared to me, but he's still very young, and I think still a little impatient. If he had hung out a little while, he was going to get to the back end of the field. But he made a mistake and crashed out. And then the tiniest of mistakes by your pick.
Well, it wasn't actually even. They found out later it was a suspension failure going into the corner. So
really?
from the replay, he definitely makes contact with the inside wall, which pitched him into the outside wall. But it was because of suspension failure coming to the corner.
Oh wow!
So that's why the team actually told him on the radio, like, hey, don't beat yourself up.
He was literally punching himself in the head about 30 times.
Yeah, he was very upset, and he thought it was all his fault.
Yeah, it was a monster drive, but it was a monster drive, so I feel badly for him because I root for him as well, and it's too bad that both of them crashed out. But what a race! What a race!
My half pick, Scotty, came from, I think it was like 13th to 7th in the last 5 laps. And
he and Grosjean got. I have to side with Grosjean though on that pit exit.
I do. I agree with you.
I don't think he had a right to be upset with him. He was coming from pretty far back.
Yep.
But just highly competitive and awesome. So that's the racing for this one, and we're doing good, man. We're doing good. We're halfway through. So
cheerful, sun drop.
Yeah,
rainbows, Pride Month.
But here's the thing. I'm honestly excited. I'm not joking or putting it on. Like this is like, it's just, there's a lot of great stuff happening in the world of racing right now. It's just
It really is.
full of great stuff. And I hope all of you out there, people that are listening and enjoy car racing, I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are, because it's killer. So
Oh,
let's
it's the week after Le Mans. I'm gonna double check on this. I'm almost positive it's the week afterwards. Pikes Peak is the week after Le Mans, and Jenson Button will be there as well, in a special
Yes.
not a prototype exact, like a sports car prototype kind of specialized thing that they've made just for Pikes Peak. So the man is living the life.
Yes, and one thing I wanted to mention, or just one thing before, because I went back and looked, we were talking about the IMSA racing that happened in Detroit. Did you see the BMW go over the top of the was it an Aston Martin?
Yeah,
Holy crow.
that was quite the.
And then he takes off.
And
He's
then
like,
he keeps going. His whole.
I mean, he comes from like he pulls a James, I'm forgetting his last name, but the driver that I actually enjoy him and I'm a good friend with him. I'm forgetting his last name right now, but
Spicer. What's his name?
I'm sorry, I don't remember. But the thing is, like, a guy that'll come, a former version of that driver would come back from 8 car lengths back and lock them all up and pile all over you and drive off. And this guy did basically the same thing and literally crawled over the top of the Aston Martin and is like sitting on the top of this thing, and then he just hammers it and goes right down off and takes off. I mean, it's a wild piece of video. Something. Nobody got hurt, thank goodness.
The whole front splitter got like ripped off. The car is just junk and just like, nope, let's go.
Now we're off. We're going. So that was that. All right. Racing end. This is where the link goes. The link to the next thing happens now.
Sure.
And then so what we're doing this week is
Good news.
Good news. And because we believe there is some good news out there. And Ed, sir, you have been on deck for a while here. And
All right.
we need to invite you to the home plate. What have you got for us in the good news area?
Okay. This is
There. That's the good news.
there you go. Good
Sorry.
news.
Sorry.
This touches on race, but good news. So there's an author. Her name is Jennifer M. Lane. She wrote a book called the book is called Of Metal and Earth. The book is about a Jeep and the many lives this Jeep lives as different owners come through. I think it's total 7 different stories, 7 different owners, same Jeep. Called she refers to it the little green Jeep. Anyway, so she's at a book fair, like authors, people sitting around, books, and she posts this tweet that she got, and I just want to read this tweet. It's from some guy.
Okay.
Hey, we met at the book thing. Okay, so his girlfriend took him. He doesn't read. He says he hadn't read a book since high school. The book thing. He doesn't even really identify what the thing was. All right. Hey, we met at the book thing last weekend. I bought Of Metal and Earth, and I wanted to contact you because you literally changed my life. I used to hate reading and do everything to avoid it. I literally haven't picked up a book since high school. Ha ha. But your table with the car parts, apparently she had car parts out on their table. Your table with the car parts brought me in, and then your personality and kindness was so amazing. I started reading your book and I could not put it down. My parents and girlfriend were like, what the hell happened to you? And since when do you read? It just drew me in, and it kept my attention, which no other has before. Sorry for the long message, but I just wanted to say you are such an amazing person and writer, and you're the reason I'm into books right now. I just had to find the right book for my personality, and I truly connected with this book like no other. So I read this and I said, just like what you guys are doing, you're trying to connect these disparate things. I mean, she's writing a book and the dude read her book. It's not quite the same, but like the car parts on the, like she, and I didn't read any deeper than that. Like if she thought through, I think she likes, like she wrote about a Jeep. So I think she had like a carburetor with pins in it or something like that. You know, some bookish literary thing.
Yeah.
And caught the attention of some dude who was just there
For the book
'cause
thing.
the book thing that his girlfriend dragged him to, probably, you know, and winning hearts and minds, right? And not to use war terminology, but to me, I love this story for so many. One, the written word still works. Two, it's a connection. Like she's writing about something that connected with this guy. And I haven't read the book, so I don't know, but I'm sure it's not a green Jeep. I'm sure it's not about engines. I'm sure it's about people and relationships and things like that. Caught this dude. Now he's reading books. Just to me, like that's an author story that every author, every artist, every people who's in the creative wants to read. So that's my good news.
That's a cool story, Ed. I think there's some positivity to that in the prospect of change as well. Like for somebody to go through their life and not do a thing that probably not necessarily intentionally, but just not being a part of that world, and then getting you're just the tiniest foot and toe in the door, and then for it to break open like that and kind of change somebody's life and in a substantial way, it shows that while most people are creatures of habit, and most people don't change in the sense of like you're always kind of who you are through the course of your life. Like there can still be moments that can completely change your perspective and can lead you towards new possibilities and understanding other people and understanding new ways of doing things, which is really heartening. Yeah.
No.
I mean, this is like one of the things that's it should be separating maybe a development of humanity, right, as opposed to perhaps other forms of life on the planet, right? Is this empathy, this muscle that the arts develop, right? The ability to have an empathetic connection with a fictional character, with a writer, with a character on the movie screen. These things, this is all relying on our ability to empathize and to live outside of our own experience. And I really feel like the arts, we've spoken about this before, Ed, you spoke about it, about how the idea of evil not being able to be like defeated necessarily, but it can be buried, and taking up portions of bandwidth with books, with theater, with film, with music, with these things that expand our hearts and our minds in these ways. This is where the hope is.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why they're being attacked so strongly right now is because regardless, I mean, they may not even know this, but I think regardless of the content, just the idea of exercising your empathy is something that harms the direction they want things to go in.
Right.
And so, if we can invest in these things, the arts, books, you made me think, like, what greater response could you have to people burning books or banning books than to say, let's read books?
Right. But because this guy's life is now better because he's opened himself up to the world, in a way that, I mean, it's not, I mean, we could get into a huge debate about better or worse, but like, movies are different from books, different from music, different from the internet, different. Da, 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 da. But another thing that occurs to me is this artist, this author, Jennifer M. Lane. She's a writer. She thought up this narrative, and it reached out and caught a dude that doesn't read books. And right now there's a move to eliminate writers, to get rid of writers, that they're not needed. And the mistake there is the idea that, oh, well, we could just generate ideas anywhere, right? We scrape the internet and come up with ideas. Of course you can. But it takes a writer to write a book with 7 characters, 7 people, 7 stories, like the construction of it to hit a human in such a way that the human gets the humanity through that. That's why, as though I have zero faith in the studio side of, say, the writer's strike. I don't have much faith in them. But I have complete faith in that if you eliminate the writers, that humanity disappears. And then you get reality television and you get regurgitated story. You know how you see a movie, it's got the same story as this other movie. One hits and the other feels like cardboard.
Yeah.
You know, that's the difference. And the difference is there's a human behind that pen, behind that keyboard, driving forward. And the human who picks that up and reads it, that's the ongoing conversation. That's what the ongoing conversation is.
That's where art, that's what art is. I mean, I think it's that connection from the creator to the observer or the watcher or the listener, whatever you want to call them.
Right.
That human element is so special and sacred, because you have when we're talking about AI generating stuff or scraping the internet, like you said so eloquently, that's just the capitalization of stories. They're not stories anymore. Like the whole concept of story is human, of life, of connection. Ed, you reminded me of this other book, especially because it's this story that you're talking about, being from the perspective of something non-human, interestingly.
I'm not sure about that.
Right, but it's like you said, it's the 7 different owners of this car.
You're right.
So I don't know any more than what you've shared, but it reminded me of this book. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it. I think Jeremy probably has. The Art of Racing in the Rain. Yeah. This book. Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
I was just saying the title again.
Oh yeah, the art of Racing in the Rain is a story by Garth Stein, and is actually follows a family that is trying to make it in racing, but the entire story is written from the perspective of the family's dog. And as with many stories with pets involved, you know, it's the rain at the end is your tears, but amazing connection there to a family within the racing community. And actually it's based on very loosely based on a family that I know and have raced with, the York family. They used to race. I used to race with them in Charlotte, in North Carolina. Kevin York, and I used to live out there, Ed.
Right down the street.
Just down the street. But yeah, actually, loosely based on a true story of sorts, aside from the perspective being from the dog. But beautiful story again, and connection.
It is I just want to second that, because that is a beautiful story, and I often will recommend that story, because in my circles, you know, that is a out of left field, you know, in the artistic circles that I am in, that's an out of left field recommendation. And I've actually had some people read that. I recommended that to my theater teacher from high school, who changed my life quite a bit, introduced me to the arts and people, the people that were involved in that. I started my love for the theater. He was looking for book recommendations, and I recommended that book. He got back to me, like, I would say in about 45 days or something, and he absolutely loved it. Thanks me for the recommendation. It was something he would have never ever picked up.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful story. I just want to second that, Brian. Not to steal your thunder, but just second
Not at all.
it.
Yeah.
A wonderful book, if anybody is interested. They did make it also into a movie. The movie is
Okay. It's not
okay.
fantastic. It's good by itself. Obviously, the book is better, as with most cases.
Yes, and they had to take a lot of stuff out of it that enriches it.
I agree.
It's something else to check out, and I'm definitely going to check out this book that you recommended, Ed. That's a super cool way to handle the assignment. You understood the assignment, Ed.
This speaks to very, very well. This speaks to a conversation that Jeremy and I have had actually on a number of occasions, tying this to racing and motorsports and the automotive world, because you don't really see, or you don't really think of art a whole lot when you think of the automotive world. Like, you see it in some aspects of like design cues and how a car's form is created by its designers. You see it in racing a little bit, with kind of some heritage and some beautiful liveries and paint schemes. Maybe it's kind of a reach there. I'll say, but for me, something that is like a romantic aspect of racing is when I'm actually in the seat, in the car or the kart. It is for me, like, I'm not a skilled artist in any other way. I can sketch, I can draw just like anyone else could, but for me, the time that I can dance is in that kart, and the way that I'm chasing perfection. I'm chasing something that doesn't exist, but I'm chasing something that I can feel in my butt and in my hands and in my feet. And, when I go through that corner and I can feel just like the scrub on the right rear, and I can feel the angle of the kart, and how I know, like, I've gained, probably a couple hundredths in that corner, and trying to file that away and remember it for the next time I go through it and then do it better. And it's just kind of it's, for me, it's a little bit of my own art. Even if it's just laying that little tiny scrub of rubber on pavement, that's my brush stroke, so to speak. But it's, for me, that's kind of it's part of why I enjoy racing so much, and the motorsport world, because while I'm not the one that's there most of the time when I'm watching it on TV, like, I know what those guys are feeling. And when you connect it to like the grander aspect of life, for me, that's what is so special about it. It's not just car go fast.
Right.
That's exciting and that's fun, for sure. But it's that connection that you have with this, little green Jeep, or with the team that has put you there and put you in that spot to be able to carve that corner and gain that infinitesimal amount of time to be the best, and to find that perfect lap is sorry, I'm actually getting a little emotional talking about this. It's a very cool and fun thing. It's something that's special for me.
Well, and the community, I just meant, you started to talk a little bit about that, but the community that is growing around that, so many people, you express it beautifully. And I can, identify with that. And I think the majority of people in the paddock, where we were racing, would just amen to that to that sermon about what that's like at each level, whether there are people feeling that in the D main,
Sure,
or they're
sure.
trying to, they're hoping for it, or they're feeling it for the first time, and that's why, you know what I mean. That's why they come back for the next 6 years or 10 years, like I did, and never got better than 15th, for the season. But I would do that until, if I had the ability to, right, I would do that until I just absolutely couldn't do it anymore, because it is that meaningful, to, I think, those of us that have done it. And and then when you watch it, you empathize with it, right?
Sure.
Except for they're like, wow, you're doing that at 225 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah.
Which is wild. But that's beautiful. Thank you, Brian, for sharing that.
I saw last thing before we move to the next thing, but I saw this really great quote. It's actually completely unrelated. It's from somebody posting about a TV show called Bluey. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. Very beautiful little show for kids, but it's really for the parents first, and it happens to be a kids show. But there's this great quote I saw about it, and it was how the parents are interacting with the kids in that show. And the whole thesis of the show really is work on the heads later. For now, just hearts. And that's really what, again, art is about, and that connection of that story that you shared with us, Ed, about that book. And when it connects to kids and bringing books back to them and having them in the classroom and outside of the classroom, everywhere, sharing stories is, where we generate that empathy and where we generate that connection, and makes for a better place.
Yep. Word.
That's absolutely. We gotta fight to keep it.
Sure.
Yeah, you do. That's absolutely true.
It's
Absolutely.
it might be,
Always. There's no time in history when that has not been true.
right.
That's part of the
wholesome thing to fight for that to continue, that ability,
absolutely.
that opportunity for children.
That's an easy one. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's a really easy one.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Brian, you've already shared some really cool stuff. Did you have something? No, which is awesome. And did you have something that you wanted to share on the good news tip? And then I'll wrap it up.
You take it home. I believe it or not, I do, and which might be surprising, as I think I rival Ed in terms of my cynicism when it comes to all things political.
Right.
But I actually saw a Gallup poll released, I believe today, or at least very recently in the last couple days, that gay marriage support in the U.S. has reached its highest level ever, tied with 2022. But again, in light of the things that are happening in certain states, unfortunately, and within certain political parties, among those aged 18 to 29, it's at 89% support, and overall 71%.
Wow.
Which is a remarkable thing, considering the loudest voices that we hear in the political biosphere of there's so much aggrandizement of hate and frustration and bigotry, and just I really feel it in some aspects when I see that number, like that's a statistic. And yeah, you can play games with numbers all day, of course.
Right.
But that's not a 49-51. That's you can't flub that one that badly.
Right.
And for me to see that, and where we've come from, obviously, in years past, to see that clarity of a number, when we have such loud, angry voices, tells me that the angry voices are losing, and they're getting louder because they know they're losing.
It's absolutely true. You back an animal into the corner, what it's going to do? It's going to fight harder. It's going to get louder. It's going to get crazier.
which is
It's gonna get
dangerous.
more dangerous. That's right. And I think basically, I've always believed this. Voting is one thing, but what folks actually care about, believe in their hearts, I think it's always 80-20. I think it's always been 80-20. I think on most things it's 80-20. But the 20 is so invested in structures and procedures and methodologies. They're defending their jobs, basically. They're defending the same with guns. It's the same with guns. They're defending a system that is bad. It's the same with renewable energy. It's the same with the environment. It's like and when I say we, I mean the 80%, we just know in our hearts what's right. We know what's good. We know, like, we all connect on these things. Yet the 20% is so determined to keep things as they are, or worse, to keep whatever the mechanism is. And they spend billions of dollars every year doing that.
To keep it there.
So that's heartening. That's actually, that is really heartening, because you're right about the numbers too. Let's say the margin of error is 10%. Okay, great. 70% of the population. Fantastic. I'll take those numbers. I mean, it's again worth fighting for. Easy, low-hanging fruit, where people get their love and how they. I mean,
the sad thing, and I'm not taking down a note, I promise, but the sad thing is, as we mentioned a minute ago, that you have to fight for these things. And as that animal is backed into the corner, that fight can become very volatile, and it can become very nasty. And the night is darkest before the dawn kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's part of what we're seeing. It's funny, Ed. I think you must have been hanging out with my dad, because he's preached the 80-20 rule my entire life. Yeah. And it's something that I live with too, and I understand. I think we all do in certain aspects. That 80-20 rule is applicable in so many different ways. It's amazing. But
I think it's an easy, like, in lieu of other information of how humans are going to act, go there, because it so often is true. My daddy was a newspaper man for decades, probably 3.5 decades. And I remember him saying, overall, when all things being equal, people are good. People want the best for everybody. People want to avoid pain. People want a decent, like all the things we all feel when we're not on our knees or following some cult, or, staring some brainwash machine in the eye. The stuff you feel when you're falling asleep at night and when you first wake up in the morning, it's all real. And that's why I think folks like us, and I believe this is true, we might not agree with the history of this country 100%, how things came to be 100%, how to proceed 100%. But I think we all believe in the promise, whether it was for real or not. Like, they said it. They said the words, pursue to happen. Like, they said those words. They wrote them down. It was so important. They all wrote it down and signed it.
That was a unique moment in our civilization's history. Yeah,
absolutely. And that is, like, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy thing that they laid out. And if it takes hundreds of years to get it right, great. It takes hundreds of years to get it right. But if we do get it right, it will, like, we've seen glimpses here and there. We already know what we're talking about. But it's worth pushing for. It's worth fighting for. It's worth keeping in mind. And I think, Jeremy, I want to thank you for bringing this, because it reminds us, yes, and these things are true, and these other things are also true. So,
well, thank you. And one of the things that I was thinking just a moment ago, I was thinking, those loud voices, they are amplified. I'm just trying to think about this 80-20 rule. Well, if 80% of the people, let's say, all agree on these kind of core values, I guess that's what you would call them, the values. And if rage clicks, hatred, and being activated is the way that media propagates itself, the fact that all these let's say angry voices, as we've been calling them, you cover the angry voices, so 80% of the people are interacting with that. Do you understand? So it's like if it was the opposite, right? It was the opposite, and if everybody would be clicking away on all the good stuff and on all the people agreeing and all this stuff, like they do for some reason, like when a turtle, gets saved, or
Right.
when a
Right.
or when a kitty comes
Cow-
out of the trees.
Cow
There's
gets pulled
something
out of a lake.
like that.
Yep.
And then it's like
And the
20
squirrel
million.
is on the jet skis.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right. But and that fascinates me, that like we're like, oh, look at that human being being kind to that shark. 30 million thing. Okay. All right. So that exists out there in the media world, but like 80% of us are going, holy, that is horrible, and like we're clicking and interacting on it. So that ends up being overrepresented. Like it's overrepresented.
I think it's a choice.
It's because of what gets the action.
Well,
Does that
but
make sense?
even what you've framed, you gotta use your numbers and your math. How many people are we actually talking about are on Twitter? I mean, you see like this rage, this going on. It's a couple of thousand people out of millions and millions and millions of people are not on Twitter, are not watching Fox News, are not reading this, are not blah, blah, blah. They're just not there. We're too all over the place for, anytime a media company posts numbers. Right now, I'm trying to decipher Apple's viewership, how they keep track of things. I don't know if y'all remember a couple of months ago, I guess Netflix released some numbers, and what they count as a full view is something like 5 minutes of viewing, or like it's
There's
not
lots of manipulation going on.
right. It's not like ticket sales, but even ticket sales, as we know, is a cash business. That wasn't a very good metric either. Like how many people saw this movie? Like we're just not good at keeping track of these things. But I think it's so easy for us to think everybody's mad, everybody's involved, because the very narrow scope of things that we're involved in, that's what it feels like. And I'm just constantly reminded that aside from, major highways, which are 24-hour, whatevers, most of the time here on Earth, nothing's happening. In most places, most of the time, nothing's happening.
Well, define nothing, though. You got to define nothing.
Peace.
I understand what you're saying, but
It's peace. Like the majority of the area around me right now, there is nothing going. There are no cops. There's no crime. There's no nothing. But if something did happen out in my front yard, suddenly the world would be right there, and suddenly it's part of a stat. It's part of a growing trend or whatever. What I'm saying is, from the view of the moon, looking at Earth, and you're looking around, it's like most of the time, most humans,
it's blue and green.
They're not doing anything. Yeah, they're
From the moon, it's blue and green. Yeah,
Yeah.
like when you zoom in and you see those points that are able to connect and say, oh yeah, there's this many, albeit absolutely terrible things, cop brutalities or mass shootings or whatever it is today. When you put those points all together, it does become this grandiose, evil, scary monster, because it's been put all together. Of course it's terrifying because it's all been put together, and it's being piped directly into your forehead because this is how close we have our phones to our face all the
Right.
time.
Right.
Brain
So
Yeah.
it's being piped directly, and there's a capitalization to this that is obviously the undercurrent, and so to what you're talking about, Jeremy, I think what it boils down to, and it's unfortunate that humans, animals, life reacts very vehemently to fear, and so that's where the money is. And it takes a conscious choice to look for the good news like we have this week,
Right.
because you have to decide, like, yes, I know all of this is shit. Yes, and Ed,
Right.
there's also that guy that saved the shark. And that didn't change the world, but it changed the shark's world.
Right.
But and did you know that over in the past 10 years there's been a 38% increase in guys saving sharks? like no one's compiling that. You know what I mean? Like,
There's where's the market on compiling the stats on good news? Yeah, there
Right,
isn't one.
If Ford saw a spike in sales when they ran the news about the sharks,
Yep.
Ford would have Shark Week, right?
Right.
well, and they do, I guess. Yeah. Well,
Right.
yeah, this is an amazing segue. Can you guys read that? I don't know if you can read that, or is it backwards for you?
I can't quite. Sorry.
Nope.
All right. So this is this story that I found happened in March, and I said to Ed before we came on, I'll bet you $100 you don't know anything about it. I knew nothing about it. We'll see if Brian knew something about it. There is a new global agreement that protects marine life in parts of the ocean that laws have been unable to reach. The United Nations created the UN High Seas Treaty. There's still steps to be done. 60 nations have to independently vote to embrace the treaty, but that's out of 200 nations that participated, including the United States, including Russia, including many nations that are at conflict, China, all these major nations, as well as developing nations, which is extremely important to this agreement. This agreement, humanity essentially has gotten together and said, the oceans, the portions of the oceans that are not owned by countries, so that's past, I think it's 250 miles. When you get out past 250 miles, this is the high seas. There was nothing monitoring that. You could go, and you still maybe there's still some holes and some loopholes, and things are not perfect with this agreement. However, you could go out and with no regulation whatsoever, fish, trawl, drill, pull resources, dump, do all these, and then if you discovered something out there, a U.S. scientist is out there and they discover something 251 miles off of the third world nation country, that is suffering economically, and you pull something out of there and make a product out of it and make billions of dollars, they got nothing because it was 251 miles out and not 249 miles out.
Right.
So this treaty, which is is designed to serve as like a scaffold for other agreements that are going to grow upon it. It looks like what it's going to be able to do is protect 30%. Is what it's saying right now. 30% of this of the ocean. And they'll be creating things that we understand like as national parks, preserves. They're going to be. They got into the agreement where if things are discovered out of these areas, that we will share in an equitable fashion with the rest of the world the profits and the things that come out of these discoveries. They're protecting the deep ocean, which is the man who wrote the article that I read, which was from the New Yorker. He is a researcher. His name is Jeffrey Marlowe, and he was a researcher who was advising the people that were negotiating this deal. And in the end, it was very dramatic. They went 36 hours without sleep. All these representatives, it was the last thing. They felt like if people left after, I think it was a decade of work, that if they left this last meeting, they were just going to pitch it. They were
Right.
going to ban the whole idea. They got together. They were there for 36 hours together. They came up with some language that everyone could get on board with, and they created this agreement. And the thing is that beyond the agreement, to me, why this is such good news and why I feel like it's so hopeful looking forward, is that it is multinational to the extreme, which is something that is not in vogue right now. It is an agreement that you have 200 nations coming together to make. And I believe that this is something that is going to have to happen in order for us to, save this beautiful planet and as we understand it, moving forward. And to see this happening, and I didn't know this had happened, and to read about it, I'm heartened by it. Like I said, nations that are, at proxy war with one another and even at war directly with one another are involved in this agreement. And I don't know, that tells me that we still have some really high level ability to do good. And it's not perfect. That's the thing. It's not perfection. People are unhappy with it in different ways, but they were able to get together to at least put this step forward. And that's what we need to be doing. That's what we have to be doing, I think, in order to move forward. So that was my bit. It's not a long article. We'll link to it. It's the inside story of the UN High Seas Treaty by Jeffrey Marlowe. It was in the New Yorker, and that was good news for me.
Yeah, I think Jeremy, we should probably tag up just the Wikipedia page on the High Seas. It's called the High Seas Treaty. That's the main Wikipedia page for it as well. That has some additional detail. It addresses the four themes that it's chasing after. You're right. It's not to poo-poo on it or anything, but it's going to take some time before it gets finalized and ratified. But it is a stepping stone where there was none previous, or the one previously was, I think the last similar such treaty was from the 80s. I think it was like 82 or something like that. I was reading. So, or actually it was written in 82, ratified in 94 or something. So this is going to take years, and it's going to take, there's going to be a lot of competing interests that are involved in it. But this is something that needs to happen. And this is a start point where, like you said, Jeremy, if we're going to get our shit figured out across the planet, we're going to have to work together. And this is a step towards that.
Awesome. So I'm going to wave the white flag, the last lap.
Slow car ahead. Slow NASCAR.
Slow car ahead. It depends where we're racing. I don't know. Are we in France?
I guess we're not in France.
That's okay. So I don't know. I just thought maybe we would go around the horn. Like any final takeaways from our time together tonight, Ed?
It's choice. We all have a choice every day of what to consume, how much to consume, or whatever. And we're under no obligation to consume things that make us feel bad, but we are under obligation to pay attention to what is happening on the planet that we love.
Great. Brian?
Some specificity to bring another piece of enjoyment and happiness into your life. As it relates to the high seas, there's it's 45 minutes. There's a documentary on Disney Plus. Not to plug Disney Plus necessarily, but it's on Disney Plus. It's called Bob Ballard, An Explorer's Life. It's about most people know him as the founder of the Titanic, or the founder of the shipwreck of the Titanic. But he had he was a part of so many amazing scientific discoveries over the course of his life. He's still around, but an idol of mine when I was growing up, an oceanographer and somebody that had a big influence on my life. And watching that little documentary on his life and kind of the things that he ran into and the way that he was able to take tragedies in his life and make positives out of them, and connect it all to this little blue ball that we live on, gets me. And I'm going to be emotional again for the second time this evening. Cool, really cool little worthwhile doc there. Very short and sweet, to the point, and lots of positivity to come out of that, and come out of tonight. This was really nice, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Love it.
Well,
Good idea, Jeremy.
Yeah. I want to thank you both. I mean, really, really excellent spending our time this way. And like you said, Ed, it's not about denial. It's not about that. It's just that we have to, right? We have to, there's so much joy and beauty in the world that's available to us. We can fuel ourselves and allow that to even, it's a sense, in a sense, it fuels and it armors you to deal with the other side of what's going on, right? So I feel great that we got to do this. I really appreciate just us sharing about what's keeping our motors going. There's something keeping our motors going, right? There's something.
Yep.
And
Gasoline and rainbows.
gasoline.
That's our spin-off. That'll be our spin-off, the spin-off show.
That's awesome. That's perfect. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it, and it feels healthy or something.
Super. It feels very Onuan.
Yeah, very Onuan.
Very Onuan.
All right, well that's Pistons and Politics. For June 5th, 2023. You guys are like brothers to me. You really are. You guys are some of my best friends in the whole world. We will turn them around, baby. but it's true, and I appreciate you both, and that's it. Signing off for Pistons and Politics for the evening.
All right, y'all. Yeah.
Much love. All right.
Peace. Thanks, everybody. Bye.